Food, thank you for 105 months. Hello, folks. How are ya?
A 100 huge months.
Rudy, thank you for 100 months. Yeah, I saw that you were checking out Moss, BFA. Thanks for the suggestorino. $78 lovely months. Tercero, thank you for 78 months. Yeah, I never did get around to playing it, so at some point I would like to. So sorry for my lateness this evening. It's been a tough week so far, I'll say. I mean, I was out for a week and a day, so there's been lots to catch up on. Lots and lots to catch up on. Oh, there's a squeakle. Good. Love to hear that, always. Back after vacation, yeah. How are you finding fast mail, BFA? Oh, haven't used it yet. Word. Okay. Nice, nice. uh Yes, yeah, the wildcard feature is really nice. There's a really ton of features that Fastmail offers that are really handy, especially if you have some technical knowledge and capability. You can take advantage of some really nice stuff that they offer. And I have to say, it feels very awesome to have a completely 100% blanked out Gmail account. Which I don't have to look at anymore, and so I shall not. Dave does have you there. No, I didn't switch to Proton. I've actually had Fastmail for like professional purposes for a long time. And I looked at Proton for a second. I discovered that they deleted my account because it was a free account from ages past, and I had not logged in a long time. And so I contacted their support and was like, because their documentation around that said, we don't usually reinstate them unless it can be proven that like there's definitely no impersonation or anything like that. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I can totally prove that I'm me and this is my old account. I have all the original keys and all the everything. And then they responded to me with a kind of defensive and canned response. And I was like, you know what? I'm already on Fastmail, so fuck Proton, I guess. Absolutely the correct name. They just didn't even try, is the thing that got me, Grinder. Because I even threw in my message, I'll be very likely to become a paid customer if you guys can reinstate my account based off of this. Threw that in there for them. Easy slam dunk. And they were like, nah, they batted it away. We don't want your business. Okay, no problem. No, Dave, no. It's not my fault. There's no reaction to my name that isn't upsetting, I think. The only reaction I would accept would be like a sort of like a like one of those like inhaling cringe, you know, like like you just saw someone get like you saw someone's ankle snap, you know, like that, like ooh, and then an apology. That's the only reaction I think is appropriate. But I never get that. Like the obvious bad reaction you guys already know, but the other reaction that I think is concerning and upsetting is people who have no fucking idea. And I'm just like, how do you not know? Did you go to a school? Any school? Anywhere? Were you educated? Laughing is also acceptable. I take it as a joke myself, so it's fine. You guys can never hurt me. Those of you who know because it's a joke. So it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. The only thing you can do is have a sense of humor about it. Right? But yeah, I find it's upsetting the amount of people who just don't have any fucking clue. That seems more worrisome. You should have a clue. I don't know. We do live in a time where people knowing things is really scraping the bottom of the barrel. We're kind of like beyond that. That's not even the problem anymore. It was a problem at some point, but we've blown past it. I think we take it very much for granted, BFA. But then again, I feel like also we all have had probably very drastically different school experiences too. My perception is that the vast majority of what I know, like from a factual standpoint, was hammered into me in my school days, but I don't know. I think of my pal, my buddy Justin, who is like impervious to mundane knowledge in a way that I've never encountered in my life. And it made me really reconsider, like, because Justin's a smart person. He's not smart. He's in no way dumb. But he's very efficient at just not absorbing useless information, which is highly interesting to me. I think that's what Justin is. I think many of us, a large portion of our brains are wasted on just absorbing needless facts and knowledge. Yeah, he doesn't suffer common knowledge gladly. Yeah. There's a lot of shit that you cannot learn at school. Because, you know, there's an inherent societal bias. Like, there isn't I mean, it depends on the fucking school, I guess. Right? But I'm going to say that probably in 99.9% of American schools, they're not doing like a John Brown section in history class. You know what I'm saying? I wonder why that might be. Why would it be? I don't remember being taught about the minor wars, or very much about company towns. Wonder why that is. Why was that left out? And yeah. I think, unfortunately, as well, most people do not really come across this knowledge on their own. If they're not taught it in school, I mean, I have no way of knowing this, of course, but it just seems unlikely to me that most people are really concerning themselves with, you know, learning more stuff that they weren't already taught. Unless they are, I mean, not in the general case. Obviously, people learn stuff about their careers or their passions or their hobbies or whatever. They're learning things, but just not like necessarily stuff that maybe they ought to know. But it is kind of astonishing the, like, when you do get to that point as an adult, if you know, I don't know, if you pursue this sort of knowledge and really learning how, like, your education as you were growing up left out so fucking much that it never even came close to touching, and how you're given this really sanitized, like a rock skipping across the surface of a river, American history sort of stuff. It's crazy. It's so homogenized and sanitized and bereft of actual fact. I don't remember us ever covering a single fucking thing about Cuba, for instance. To what you're saying, Blockington. I would guess that the vast majority of Americans don't have the even one fucking clue as to what the deal is with Cuba and why the United States treats Cuba the way it does. I think a lot of people assume that there's good reasons for things like this and haven't done the work to lift up the covers and go, wait, there's nothing. Wait, oh no. Oh God, wait, no, there's nothing. There's nothing, no. That sort of thing, you know? I mean, not nothing, but there's the reasons are xenophobic and fucking insane and you know, imperialistic and etc. Bionicle leftism. Damn. Then I absolutely have not given Bionicle a fair shake. Speaking of cops being bastards, I realized today that we are accidentally moving into one of the most flocked up places in the fucking country. like for all of my like focus recently on trying to improve my privacy and detach from big tech and AI and etc.
Oh,
all that
no.
bullshit. Oh no, indeed, yeah. it's fucking full on flock, and there's all kinds of shit been going on in basically Northeast Ohio. That the systems have been used. It's the same everywhere essentially, right? That they get in the door with the pitch of, our AI cameras just read license plates for your lovely local police officers. That's all. That's what they do. And then they're fucking used to do all kinds of other fucking shit. Not to mention they're completely insecure and, basically anybody could be watching you via those fucking things. And it's all part of that fucking bullshit where, like, despite the fact that crime has been just going down for 40 fucking years, crime's been just going down. It's all this hyper focus on convincing everybody to be scared of everybody else. You have to be scared of your fucking neighbors. We have to have cameras up watching everybody at all times. There was a town in Texas I was just reading an article about today on 404 Media. I forgot what the fucking name of the town was. But there's a fucking councilman there who absolutely crashed completely the fuck out because it's like a town of like 800 people, but they flipped out and they were protesting and they were cutting down the camera poles and all kinds of everything. They were shooting the cameras. And so the council finally caved and voted to, end their flock relationship. And this fucking guy was like, fine, I'm gonna introduce legislation to ban cell phones and internet service if we really care about privacy. But this guy also had said at some point, essentially, if you have nothing to hide, it doesn't matter. And that people who are defensive about privacy are criminals. So this is the shit that we are living through now. Just some of the dumbest motherfuckers that ever walked the face of the earth, essentially. Who can't put an abstract thought together. They just can't. Either that or, yeah, I mean, probably a flock investor, probably lined pockets. That's the other thing that's just sort of like off the fucking charts right now is open corruption. Everything's becoming pay to play. It's hard not to be angry all the time, folks. I'm sorry. I'm just sort of mad all the time. Yeah. It's important to know not that like none of this is particularly new. It's just that we are in a really hyper focus, like just a explosion of it right now. It's not that like there was a good old time when this shit didn't happen. America has been the antagonist of the world for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. But we are really in a wild time. Like generally there's a sense. Yeah. Shout out to Blowback. I think there's a sense, and I've heard this said elsewhere, and I essentially agree with it, but it's starting to feel pretty clearly that like there's people who are looting basically our society seemingly because they are seeing basically that the end is nigh. Like, there's a lot of sort of seemingly unrecoverable stuff happening here, and it just seems like people are just kind of taking the bag. And because they recognize that this shit is essentially a sinking ship or dead already. And I think people are starting to kind of feel like, oh yes, actually, maybe this isn't doomerism. Maybe this is actually reality. Right. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. It does feel like there's been a lot of effort of late. Basically accelerationism, right? I mean, that is the whole like Curtis Yarvin manifesto thing, the Mencius Moldbug, Peter Thiel, etc. squad, is they are accelerationists, purposely wanting the collapse so that they can loot it. You know, it's easier to just take as it's all unraveling. Well, fucking Project 2025 was like its own side cancer that metastasized. Because that wasn't even... The lineage of that extends farther back than Curtis Yarvin and completely unrelated to him. In like old conservative, like 60s, 70s, 80s, you know, their whole like think tank... When they kicked all that shit off, like when the Republican Party was going to die, that's the lineage of the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025. It took them that fucking long to get to the point where they were able to really fully implement what they wanted to do. But they were always chipping away, and that's what made it possible. Like, over the course of 50 years, they chipped away and chipped away and chipped away. And we've died by 1,000 cuts because we never took it seriously, because it was all small little cuts. We were always like, well, you know, it's not that they didn't get everything they wanted this time. Well, they didn't need to. Because they kept putting little chinks in the armor until there wasn't any armor left. You know? Like, getting control of the Supreme Court slowly but surely over time. Which is essentially a free pass to do whatever you want, as we are now learning. As we have been seeing for the past, 5 years or so. Or longer. It's infuriating to know all these things, and to know that people have known about all these things, that all of this stuff has been in motion, and it's like watching it and not being able to change fate. It's like not being able to change the future. You're watching something that it's a wreck. You're watching a train crash in slow motion, but you're powerless to do anything about it, to stop it, to change it, despite the fact that we all know. That's what's so frustrating and maddening about all of this. It's like we're just strapped in. It goes back so much further than that, BFA. But the Bush versus Gore thing was one of the first modern moves that they made with the what the fuck? What was it called? The riot thing that they had about the Brooks Brothers riot. That's what I'm thinking of. The Brooks Brothers riot. That was basically the first. It was essentially like a false flag kind of move, where they realized that they could do this. They could like manufacture outrage. They could distort events to be interpreted in a sort of opposite way, right? Like the Brooks Brothers riot was sort of a fake riot. It was just all Republican staffers. It wasn't a grassroots movement or something like that. But that's how it was perceived and how it was presented in the media and blah, blah, blah. This is what led to tipping everything over to Bush and away from Gore and so on. Like, but that was not the first move. That was that was when they were slowly starting to actually figure out that they could do things like this successfully. And that's because they had already laid a lot of the groundwork to make that possible before then. What it all amounts to, actually, is really not even that complex because they're not that fucking smart. Essentially, what it is now is all they have to do is put their people in place everywhere, right? So that was the rage thing that they did at the beginning of Trump 2 here, where they got rid of everybody who opposed and replaced them with loyalists, and that's it now, you know. They just have enough judges, they have enough people in all departments, in all councils, and everywhere who are just not going to push back. You know, they're going to do like how the Supreme Court doesn't, they're not even really, there's a lot of shit where they're doing like shadow docket, right? They're not actually making rulings. They are, but just not all the time. And a lot of the recent shit they've done has been like shadow docket stuff where they're just sort of saying like, well, we're just not going to come down hard on this or whatever. And they're just kind of leaving it to like kick back down to the installed judges. So they're essentially flagging like, hey, you can go ahead and do whatever you want. We're not going to stop you from doing that, is what's happening. Sorry, I'm yapping a lot here on stuff that I imagine most of you don't give a shit about. It's definitely not a bad idea, Dave. Well, Blowback is a podcast, actually. So it would be a much more of a listening experience as opposed to a watching. Started my day with a visit talking politics at me. Spent the middle of my day with another friend who said he'd kick me out if I started talking politics, so it's been a mix. Yeah. Yeah, Blowback is a fantastic listen. Gently rocked to sleep, listening to being regaled with tales of the Gulf War. Cozy. That's real cozy core stuff. How's it compared to Behind the Bastards? They're very, very, very different things. Blowback is, I would say that Blowback is closer to, or really is essentially documentary style. And a very well produced, well written, well researched documentary. Whereas Behind the Bastards is in a sense kind of similar, but just not the same as that. I don't know how to really separate it other than like it's just a podcast. Like Behind the Bastards is just sort of right smack in the this is a podcast, whereas Blowback rises above the format, I guess is what I would say. Not to denigrate Behind the Bastards or whatever. They're just different. They're just trying to do different things. Exactly, Dave. Hog shoe. Hog shoe. Yeah, Behind the Bastards is near and dear to my heart, but it's also it's like too much. It's just a sort of constant flow of nightmares. I like the way that Robert Evans writes and presents his research. But it is a just nonstop stream of depressing stuff to learn. But yeah, I don't really know how to turn off the politics. It's just too much in my face, I think. Although the most, the thing that grates against me the most is tech related of late, just because it's so much, like it really overlaps with my work and stuff I care about and yada, 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 yada. Hey, Bugs. Bye, Bugs. Yeah, it's overwhelming. I would stop short of saying by design. I just think that it's more a property of our modern, very interconnected world. That stuff was always happening all the time, but we didn't always know about it all the time. We used to get all of our information in a sort of digest form, right? Like 100 things would happen in a week, and then you'd find out all about it on Friday, or just whatever. But now it's a just open fire hose, and you're getting your fucking neck broken by it constantly. And that's, I think, the trouble is like, you can tell yourself, oh, I'm not going to pay attention to any of this anymore. The problem I have is that you can do that, but as far as I'm concerned, it's coming to get you whether you like it or not. It would be much better, I think, if we all did chose to face it and kind of push back against the fire hose, because there's so much stuff that is happening and being pushed through, and we need bodies, we need people to stand up and fight back against all of this bullshit. And that means we need people paying attention to even know to do that, you know. But I think the natural and, I guess, essentially expected response that people have in the face of that, due to its exhausting nature, is apathy and to try and shut it off and ignore it. You know, I think it's a pretty natural response to something that is highly stressful, highly upsetting, outraging, tiring, exhausting, is to try to shut it off and ignore it. But that's not going to fix it. It's going to get worse. It's going to keep getting worse. It's kind of like the other side of the same coin, isn't it? That's also, that says exhaustion to me too, right? It's like, I'm going to ignore this because I can't know anything, or I'm going to believe everything because I can't know anything. But that's not, you know, either way, you're it's sort of a trauma response, I think, is what it is. It's possible to actually know things, but it requires having the time to put in the effort to know it, and being able to discern trustworthy sources, and to be able to, well, just to be discerning in general, and critical thinking, but not in the way that people say critical thinking, who tend to use it as a stick to beat people with, because those people tend not to actually be critical thinkers. Basically, X users. Yeah. And I hope that, like, it's coming across that I don't really blame anybody for feeling that, Grinder, because I think that it's honestly, I think it is trauma. I think it's everyone, we're all experiencing a sort of nonstop 24/7 always on trauma. So while on the one hand I believe that we in general need to face it, so like I said, like, we need bodies in the fight, I also don't blame anybody for not doing it, because it's not like it's not a fucking thing that we're built for. It's just sort of a constant torture, and so it's really hard to ask people to consent to torture. Yeah. Well, so what I think about with regards to that is, like, for example, I know that there are people unjustly detained in detention centers now. Right now. It does me no good to know it, other than it's necessary to be aware that these are things that are genuinely, truly happening around us. But it's frustrating to know that, like, there's nothing I can directly do about it. So it's just this painful piece of knowledge, but it's way more painful for the people who are actually those ones who are detained. And this is not a thing that I'm floating out there to, like, as judgment of anybody else. So I'm only speaking to, like, how I view it and how I feel about it. But it's this constant, like, pulsing tug of war of, like, because, like, from my perspective, the disruption of, like, I always think about everything from it to, like, super simplify it, but, like, from a golden rule perspective, right? What if this were happening to me? And I know just simple, the most basic, like, 1 + 1 = 2 empathy possible is, like, yeah, it would be life destroying. It would be beyond the fucking pale. And I don't know, you probably get what I'm driving at. It's like, it feels like a moral imperative to stare at it constantly. Is how it feels to me. Again, I'm not prescribing anything for anybody. I'm just saying how it feels to myself, and why I kind of am the way I am is it feels like I feel like I'm basically in A Clockwork Orange and I have my eyes pried open and I'm just always like, but I'm doing it to myself. But if anything happens that I can contribute anything to whatsoever that would alleviate that suffering that I know is ongoing and constant and happening and worsening every single fucking day, I'm, like, constantly on the watch to throw in whatever is available to me to throw into it. If that makes any sense. It's like I'm just on watch. I'm just on watch. Like, maybe one day enough of a percentage of all of us are gonna, like, fucking snap into action. I'm on watch. Yeah. Well, I've done my nightly duty of showing up and making everybody feel bad. So, I release you. You're free now. You don't have to listen to me any longer. Wipe that frown off your face. Put on season 1, episode 1 of Blowback and lay your weary head down on that soft pillow. And dream about dancing, WMD, and burning oil fields. And I'll see y'all next fucking stream. Which, by the way, next stream where I actually do fucking anything is likely gonna be another installment of In Sync. Sorry, Dave. With Nakomi. So look forward to that. I did enjoy that game. It was quite good. I think it's a good escape game type of game. And Nakomi and I are big fans of those. So anyway, I'll go away now so that you can feel normal again. Sorry.